I am very much a person of routine. So much so that every Mass that I came freshman year, I sat in the same exact pew. And for the past 3 years, every Evensong I've come to, I've sat in pretty much the same exact seat, with no desire to sit in this seat at all. But here we are, thanks to George and Laura and Megan, who cajoled me into doing this.
Actually,
Ordered, yeah. Close enough. So, here goes nothing. I want to talk about the reading today in relation to my senior year. So, the start of this past fall, the only thing on my mind was what happens after May 17th. What's next? Up to this point, for me, just like for all of you, the steps are pretty easy, grammar school, high school, college. But then what? So I was grappling with what do I do next, and the question that Jesus asks Bartimaeus came to mind. What do you want me to do for you? But it wasn't Christ asking me, it was me asking God. What do you want me to do for you? And all of last fall, I really didn't feel like I got an answer. It was very frustrating. I kept calling, and I just kept leaving messages, and no one was returning my messages. And it was very, very difficult. And then in the middle of October, I went up on a retreat, and I heard this same exact reading in a midday meditation. And for the first time, I didn't think of myself asking God, what do you want me to do for you? But I thought of God asking me, what do you want me to do for you? And it dawned on me that day, and it has continued to come to mind each day, that God wants to help us, that he wants to be there for us. And I thought about my plans for the future and how frustrating it was to think that I didn't know what was going to be next. And I realized finally that our plans, our desires, what's next, isn't held far off in an out-of-reach place, but rather it's held in our hearts. And God wants to help us to find that out in our hearts. What is it that's next? So God continually asks us, what can I do for you? How can I help you figure out what your heart desires? Just like we heard in the psalm, when we hear his voice, when we hear God calling us, we want to quickly harden our hearts and say, no thank you. That's what I did for most of the fall. I said, I'm good. Thanks, but no thanks. And then Bartimaeus' reply came to mind. My teacher, I want to see. Now, good old Bart here, he wants to see for a very easy reason. He's blind, and of course, why wouldn't he want to see? But I know, especially for myself, but I think all of us included want to see as well. But we want to see what it is that God has in store for us. But that's something that we really can't see. Not on our own, at least. But we want to know where it is that our heart is leading us, but that's really scary again. And that's why I think a line that the disciples say to Bartimaeus is so important for us to remember, especially now during Lent. Take heart, have courage, get up, he's calling you. As my days here grow ever shorter, I'm reminded that our callings to where we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do, constantly change. But what doesn't change is God being with us. And what doesn't change is that our plans, what's next, always lies in the silence of our hearts. And we need just ask God, help me to see that, help me to find that. God be with you.